As I'm sure many of you know by now, Erik Karlsson has officially been traded to the Pittsburgh Penguins from the San Jose Sharks, and in this video we'll be going over the real reasons, the main reasons why this trade had to go down for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Now obviously we know they don't have too much time left in their superstars' contract terms, we'll say, and in their final little Stanley Cup run here. But they have some main reasons, especially needing Erik Karlsson to be able to get to that point in this team's structure again. And so we're gonna go to the first reason, I would say also the biggest, for now at least, is that the Pittsburgh Penguins are able to clear $3 million in cap space while only giving up a first and a second in draft capital. Now, you'd think that when you acquire a guy like Erik Karlsson, who's making upwards of $10 million, that you will not be able to clear any cap space trading for him. And they managed to. You know, they got rid of Jeff Petrie and Mikael Granlund, and it certainly worked in their favor, getting $3 million in cap space and being able to do some more moves, maybe this offseason, but especially during the regular season, as they are now officially buyers in this NHL season. But Nick, what do you think about the cap space that they cleared and how they might be able to use it over this rest of this offseason and going into next season?
Well, I think you have already the framework of a championship team in Pittsburgh. You already have the two star defensemen that you're going to need on any championship team. You're going to need a couple of good defensemen there. But what they already have is a winning culture in Pittsburgh. That's not something they have to build. They've got Crosby, they've got Malkin, they've got Letang. Those guys have won there. They've been winning there. They basically been in the playoffs their entire career except for this season right now. And like I said in the video yesterday, they can't carry a team like they used to. They don't have that Marc-Andre Fleury or prime Matt Murray. And I'm going to say prime Matt Murray, like I said yesterday, because Matt Murray right now would not be doing any favors for Pittsburgh. But point is, those guys can't carry a team like they used to, so they needed Erik Karlsson to be able to get back to that point where they want to be. They want to make the playoffs. We know if you make the playoffs, you've got the roster, you've got the winning culture, anything can happen, right? And they've also, with the cap space, it's also very important because you're going to have to acquire depth pieces. Like I said, like they've already built like the framework there. You just need the little depth pieces that are going to get you over the top when it comes to the playoffs. There's always an unsung hero or a guy that comes out in the playoffs and has an amazing playoffs. They've already acquired Riley Smith, who's an upgrade on forward. He just won a Stanley Cup this year. To add to Pittsburgh's winning culture. And I think there are unlimited possibilities when it comes to the season for Pittsburgh.
No, you're absolutely right. That winning mentality, they have that. They haven't needed to change this core from the team pretty much for, close on 10, 15 years. You know, between Malkin, Crosby, Letang, and when Marc-Andre Fleury was there, that core has been there since the beginning of this, dynasty, you could say. And the cap space that they have will kind of be just needed to add in like they have for the Tampa Bay Lightning, what they've been doing the past few years. I think a lot of teams have learned well from that and know that it works. If you keep the same players up front, you get to lock them up, you get that, that team correlation, I guess, all these guys working together for a long time, and then just throw in a few guys that will work with them. I think that's what they need to do for this upcoming season and the next season as well.
Well, also, I just wanted also to say that you said 10, 15 years. It's at the end of this season, it'll be 20 years ago they drafted Evgeni Malkin. That's 2004, right? So it'll be 20 years, 19 years since they drafted Crosby at the end of this season. So the fact that these guys are still able to compete as like the main guys on a team with, well, obviously you're going to get help from Erik Karlsson, but Letang, Crosby, Malkin, they've been there for almost 2 decades now. So I just think that's absolutely insane. It shows how good these guys are and how much they know how to win in this league.
Yeah, and like you said, the 20 years is absolutely insane that these guys are still. I would be willing to argue all 3 of them, Malkin, Crosby, and Letang, top 20, top 25 in the league, still to this day. 20 years later from pretty much when all of them get drafted, I absolutely think they're still part of that group of the top 25. But I want to also talk about the additions that they managed to do in this 3-way trade. They get Erik Karlsson, a prospect, a 3rd-round pick, and Rem Pitlick, who was very good in Minnesota and good in this early parts of his time in Montreal. And not so much later on, but I think Rem Pitlick is still that guy that, will help out, 3rd or 4th line, maybe even scratch him, throw him in when you need when there's an injury, and he will certainly help. He'll make a difference compared to some people that you might add in. add in. But I think that they will be doing more moves. I know we talked about this before the video, Nick. You didn't, I wouldn't say overly agree with me as much as I believe it, that the Penguins will be making a lot more moves, but nothing as major as Erik Karlsson, obviously. I think that's the biggest move we'll see for a long time right now for the Pittsburgh Penguins, and maybe even the whole NHL until maybe the trade deadline or next free agency with a few guys like Austin Matthews. But I think the Pittsburgh Penguins will need to make a few more moves. Maybe they go out and try to get a goalie. We know some big names that are on the market. Connor Hellebuck being one of them. Not sure if that one will happen because they've already, stretched the limits of what they can do to be able to acquire a big guy like that. But I think they do need to make a few more moves before they get to that top tier category in the NHL. But what do you think about it, Nick? What's going through your mind with that?
Well, I think they've already basically told themselves that Tristan Jarry is going to be their starting goalie for the remainder of the time that they have with this core, because they just locked him up to a 5-year. I'm not sure how much money he's making, like over $5 million, a little bit deal. I'm pretty sure. So I think they've already told themselves Tristan Jarry is the guy. I don't know if I agree with that, but because the guy just has to be more consistent. I think he has all the tools to be a great goalie in the NHL. He's just got to be more consistent. As for the moves, I can agree with you that there will be nothing more major done. Definitely nothing more major. Realistically, when it comes to a trade, how much more major does it get when you're acquiring a right-handed defenseman who scores 100 points? We already know how rare right-handed defensemen, good right-handed defensemen are in the NHL, and one that scores 100 points and is able to actually play competent defense. Which Karlsson is, I'm going to say, barely able to do because he's not that great at defense. But, if you play him with a guy like Ryan Graves or something like that, that'll be fine. I do agree they had to make some more moves, but I do think they will be all minor depth pieces because the top six is already pretty much filled out there with Gensel, Crosby, Rust, Raquel, Smith, and Malkin. Those guys are all going to be the top six guys there in Pittsburgh. So maybe a bottom six move or a bottom pairing move for the defense. Maybe a backup goalie now. Actually, no. They have Nedeljkovic now. So Nedeljkovic is their backup goalie. As for the major trades, though, I do agree that's probably the end of it for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, one thing that concerned me about Tristan Jarry is he's very injury prone. He's had a few injuries that kept him out a decent while over the past few years. One that comes to mind right away was the outdoor game. He played maybe 10 minutes in the first period, got hurt, tried to stay in the game, and couldn't. And that kept him out a while after that game. So that's just I think there's a bit of concern there, maybe, that he was not fully healthy. Hopefully this offseason he get healthier and better. But one thing I also want to talk about is that it's very hard to get a right-handed defenseman who's competent. And I do completely agree with that. And they had one, but they got rid of him. The John Marino trade, heading to when he went to New Jersey, they got Ty Smith, who's been in the AHL. He hasn't really done much. That's a guy they could also bring up here and there, if needed, and a third-round pick. But I think that this trade right here caused the Erik Karlsson deal, because I think if they had John Marino, who we know was a very good defenseman, if he had stayed with Pittsburgh, maybe they don't get Erik Karlsson. There's no really need for him with Marino and Letang on that right side. So maybe that doesn't happen. Maybe it's a blessing in disguise. I know some Pittsburgh fans were very unhappy when this trade went down after a while, knowing that the situation that played out, that he's playing great. But I think that Erik Karlsson now finally completes that circuit of not being too happy with the trade.
Well, I think if they had Marino last season, they make the playoffs. All they needed was one more win last season or another point or something. And I think John Marino, in the grand scheme of things, gets you another point with his defense and being able to stop a puck from going in the net or something like that, maybe a block shot here and there. I think John Marino is definitely better than Ty Smith, considering Ty Smith barely played last year for Pittsburgh. There was one other thing I wanted to touch on, though. Rem Pitlick, I just want to talk about him. He's a guy that's a very gritty player. He has some skill. He's not going to be like a top six guy. That's just not going to happen. But he's a guy that I think you can agree with. When he knows his role, he is a very effective player. When he's given an assignment, he's going to be a hard-nosed player. He's going to get in there and get that assignment done. I think in his later days in Montreal, part of the reason why he went unnoticed a little bit is because they didn't really have a winning culture there at that point. And in this point in Montreal, they didn't have a great assignment for him, and he doesn't fit in that well. But with Pittsburgh having need for bottom six talent, bottom six talent, we'll say, I think Rem Pitlick fits in perfectly. And I think you can probably agree that he is a very hard-nosed player, gets stuff done when he has to.
No, I absolutely agree, because that's what we had him in the role as in Minnesota. He played second line when he had to, maybe if injury happened here or there, but other than that, he was a third or fourth line center. He knew his role. He was a dog out there, He was getting in the corners where he needed to. I was very sad when we lost him, put him on waivers in Montreal, claimed him, but I think that you're right. This will be an absolutely perfect fit for him in Pittsburgh. He has a role now. Hopefully he'll stay probably up in the NHL. I would say he would, probably a third or fourth line center. Maybe even put him on the wing if they want to, but you're absolutely right. That is the role that he will need to fill, and he's got that spot in Pittsburgh now, and hopefully he can go back to what he was when he was on Minnesota, because he was very, very good for the brief time that he was up in the NHL. But that's all we got for this video. The real reasons that Erik Karlsson was traded, we got him here. That's the compilation of what the main reasons are. There's a lot more that we can probably go into that are a lot deeper, but that really don't matter to the fan aspect of it, more so management. But that's all we got for the video. If you want to see more, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Also, make sure to like the video if you did enjoy. We'll be going over some more stuff in the Erik Karlsson deal, maybe how it affects the San Jose Sharks, the Montreal Canadiens, because this is a major deal going always. This is not just about the Pittsburgh Penguins, I'd say all three teams benefited well from this in their own respective way. So if you want to see it, we'll have it here. Make sure to subscribe. But that's all. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. We're signing out. See you later. Thank you for watching.